The year is 1938. The country was in the midst of the Great Depression, and Europe and Asia were nearing total war. During this time, American citizens turned to entertainment for escapism. During this era, radio shows such as The Shadow and the Jack Benny program thrived. But one program stood out amongst the rest, not for the entertainment it provided, but for the supposed impact it had on the public. It was October 30th, 1938. On this day, 85 years ago, a little-known radio program, the Mercury Theater on the Air, hosted an episode where they adapted The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells. The program, directed by Orson Welles, no relation, by the way, to H.G. Wells, adapted the story of Martians invading the Earth in a rather unique way. It adapted it in the form of a radio news broadcast. It was estimated that at the time, 1.2 million people, while listening to this broadcast, were convinced that the story of Martians invading the Earth was real. There were stories of riots, murder, and suicide. While the idea of a Martian invasion might seem silly today, keep in mind the year this event took place. In 1938, newspapers and radio news broadcasts spoke of the rising tensions in Europe. It was a very tense time period, and when you listen to the actual War of the Worlds broadcast, it isn't hard to imagine the feelings of paranoia and terror that they must have felt.
There's a jet of flame springing from the mirror, and it leaps right at the advancing men. It strikes them head on. Lord, they're turning into flames. Now the whole field's caught up by the woods, the barns, the gas tanks of the automobiles spreading everywhere. It's coming this way now, about 20 yards to my right.
This footage, taken the day after the broadcast, features Orson Welles speaking with members of the press regarding the incident.
At the time you were giving this role, were you aware that terror was going on throughout the nation?
Oh, no, of course not. We did Dracula, and it seemed to me during Dracula I had high hopes that people would react as they do in a movie of that kind, and I don't know that they did. But
it was also at this event, Welles publicly apologized for the broadcast.
We are deeply shocked and deeply regretful about the results of last night's broadcast.
Despite the controversy, the broadcast gave Orson Welles national attention. His radio show gained the sponsorship of Campbell's Soup, and RKO Studios approached him with a movie deal. Thus began his Rocky movie career, which brought us such classics such as Citizen Kane and Touch of Evil. Even years later, Orson Welles would claim that the broadcast still gave him attention in public.
And I still meet people all over the place, everywhere in the world, who've had experiences, bitter or otherwise, as a result of our little experiment in broadcasting. Just the other day, I was coming here to England on the ferry, and some people were in the next compartment on the boat. The boat train said to me, there you are, Orson. Well, you sure scared us. We were on our honeymoon.
In the 85 years since the War of the Worlds radio broadcast, the story has remained in the popular consciousness. The novel itself was adapted many other times, most notably with the 1953 George Powell version and the 2005 Steven Spielberg version. As for the radio broadcast, it too has achieved significance. It's been told in history classes and has remained in popular culture. It gets reference in films, literature, video games, comic books, you name it. In fact, some people say it's related to the recent phenomenon of fake news. In fact, some people say nowadays that the story of listeners who tuned in went into a mass riot and terror, mass hysteria, all that, people say nowadays, was greatly exaggerated by the news media of the time. Whether or not that is true, I think that The War of the Worlds stands as a testament to Orson Welles' storytelling, directing, the acting level of Mercury Theater, the sound design team, and the imagination of people at the time. Thank you very much.